Support for this show, Politics Done Right, comes from politicsdoneright.com, publishers of How to Make America Utopia, Take Away the Economy from Those Who Rigged It, As I See It, Class Warfare, The Only Resort to Right-Wing Doom, It's Worth It, How to Talk to Your Right-Wing Relatives, Friends, and Neighbors, and other books written by Egberto, Willies.
Jack, you got some wisdom for us this morning? No, the disruption in the technical world has disrupted Jack. So anyway.
You know what? Yeah, go ahead, man.
Anyway, okay. We'll have a good show and we'll check back with you in just a little while. What you got for us today?
Well, we have a great show for you today, folks. When I tell you we have a great show, I mean that we have a great show. I mean, look, I'm going to start this way because let me pull up the title of the show today is as follows. Colombian President challenges Trump. The MAGA versus MAGA feud is on, and the MSM must join democracy fight. Now, I have some audio for you and video for you, but I'm not going to play it because we have this complication of having to rewire, as Howard would say, put the tins and cans in different ways to get it running. But you know what? Ultimately, we found a way to come across and talk to all of you. So anyhow, here's what we're going to do. Let's go ahead and get started with Colombia. And the article that I'm not going to start with the article. I'm going to start with what I know. That's a part of the world that I'm from. You know, one would, if you listen to Donald Trump, one would have you believe that all these people coming from south of the border, populating and invading the United States, these are evil people coming to just kill you and coming to murder you and coming to do you harm. And this kind of stuff have a tendency to work. And what it works on us being fearful. It works on us being somehow thinking that these people are out to get us. Let me give a categorical statement before I start. It is a fallacy to believe that around the world, Americans aren't liked. Americans set trends. America is a place where America is a fusion. America is a fusion of people from all over the world. That's what it has become. That's not how it started, but that's what it has become. And in being the fusion of the world, you'd hear Reverend Barber talk about creating the fusion movement. Well, the fusion movement was created a long time ago. It occurred with our socialization, with us, with people interacting with people. But our laws and our plutocracy and all these things did not or never actually caught up with America's reality. Never caught up with America's reality. And that is where we are. Americans taught to believe that those people that are coming across the border are somehow invading us or somehow meaning us harm, etc. I am an immigrant. And you know what? You are too. Anybody listening to my voice right now, at some point in your lineage, you were an immigrant to this nation. You know that and you hear that, all that kind of stuff. I ask you to go back in time, go back to the 1400s, go back to Cristobal Colón, Christopher Columbus, who was one of the, not discoverers, but one of the people who found America for the Europeans. You know, I want you to think, if you are a Native American, somebody whose lineage went through thousands of years of being in America, if you have to go to school every day and hear Cristobal Colón, Christopher Columbus, the discoverer of America, and you have to learn that this was a great guy who, you start to ask yourself the question, well, who the hell are the Incas, the Aztecs, the Mayans, the Chocoes, and all of those that were in this land from the tip of Alaska, it's all the way to the tip of Argentina down south. This wasn't the new world. This was an existing world, like Africa has been an existing world, like Europe has been an existing world. And people have been migrating for a whole long time. And you know what's interesting? Most of that migration that occurred around the world, people saw a piece of land that they could survive on. They made do with that piece of land. But I am not sure if you ever had what Cristobal Colón, Vasco Núñez de Balboa, and many of the other folks who came to these lands and did to the folks who originally inhabited that land. But yet, the people that we are taught to fear are either the originals of this nation or those people who are coming here with the expectation of having a better life. So we create industries and we make money off of those that are coming south of the border. You should ask ourselves if what we're doing is fair. You must enforce borders, all of that kind of stuff we like to say. Yes, let's enforce borders. Suppose, yeah, Billy, Allison, I know that the sound isn't the best right now. We really had some very serious problems trying to get the system up. I'm hearing that there is a lot of echo coming in. I am not sure what is the case about the echo, but I will try something and see if we can get rid of some of the echo. Like I said, we've been trying some magic here to get things working, but we'll try better. Now, as it turns out, okay, let me know, folks, if that is sounding any better. We're hoping that we have gotten rid of some of the echo. I imagine that somebody will text me and let me know if a lot of the echo has now been relieved. Again, systems down. That happens every so often. I hope we're improving with the echo. Anyway, so as it turns out, going back to the origins, we have been taught that somehow these immigrants that are coming over here, whether undocumented or not, somehow they are less than. Somehow they are less than. That is not the case, folks. That is definitely not the case. Last night or yesterday at some point, we sent airplanes, 2 airplanes with a lot of undocumented workers being sent back from the United States. And the president of Colombia told those planes, turn around. You're not going to be landing in Colombia because of the way you treat our people. You're not going to be landing in in Colombia. And when those planes turned around and made it back to the United States, Trump said, we will throw a 25% tariff on everything coming from Colombia. To which Gustavo Petro, the president of Colombia, answered back, if you put 25% tariffs on us, we will throw 25% tariffs on you. Donald Trump then comes back and says, and if you don't start accepting folks by this in a week, we will throw the tariffs up to 50%, to which President Gustavo Petro says, and we will do the same. As then, of course, it keeps escalating. It keeps escalating. I want you guys to understand one thing. We are no longer in a true, while America is a military power, it can command the huge military. It can do as it pleases because nobody has the power that the United States have militarily. But economically, America is not the power one would think it is. I had Dr. Richard Wolff on my program about 2 or 3 days ago, and I learned something. I always knew that BRICS was up and coming, BRICS, Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, and a few other countries forming a virtual financial system, if you will, an economic group. And what I found out from Dr. Wolff is finally that particular group is actually worth their GDP far exceeds the GDP of the United States of America. I repeat, BRICS is the economic prowess of BRICS exceeds the economic power of the G7. It exceeds the economic power of the G7. I'm taking us somewhere. Whereas we could push around the rest of the countries of the world and not harm our economic base, that is no longer the reality. And it's something that is hard for us to grow into. But remember, we are just 4.5% of the population. 4.5% of the population, while we command 25% of the resources. A lot of that's going to change. Is that a good thing? Of course it's a good thing. It's a good thing if we have a more equitable world. And why is that? Because you have less conflict, you have less wars, you have less, if people are not always fighting each other for more. This all started with the immigration issue and what Gustavo Petro of Colombia did. So they turned it around and they started to have their fight about tariffs. And Trump now comes back and says, well, Gustavo Petro says he's going to take the people, so I won. That's the impression that he gave on his social media, Truth Social, or we should call it Lie Social. That's the impression that he gave. He won. No, he didn't win. Yes, of course, countries are going to patriate the people that are deported. What Gustavo Petro was saying is treat these people like human beings. Treat Colombians who came over here not like vile terrorist or criminal. Treat them like human beings and not bring them like slaves off these planes back to Colombia. And you know what? They won't tell you, but in effect, that's what they did. And here's the reason why the United States would have had to back down in some form or fashion. Have you been to the grocery store lately and see the price of eggs because of the avian pandemic that we're having? Well, avian flu that's affecting the chickens, and we have a shortage of eggs, etc. right now. So the price of eggs are through the roof. I think we paid about I can't remember how much money we paid for a dozen and a half of eggs yesterday. But the price of eggs going up, right? Do you understand what a 25% tariff on Colombia does? Remember, it's winter. We get bananas, coffee, And all these commodities from Latin America, from Costa Rica, Panama, Honduras, Colombia, Nicaragua, all these places send us fruits and bananas and pineapples, and we are used to, in America, eating fresh fruits and vegetables right through the year, winter, summer, fall, doesn't matter. And we buy these things at affordable prices for several reasons. One, we support, for all practical purposes, farmers in all these other countries making below standard wages so we can live that life of having the fruits that we want and everything else that we want. That's who we are. But that's what we've done. And now Donald Trump wants to put a new kink in when he says, okay, we are going to throw a tariff on your products. Let's learn some economics 101. Whenever a tariff is placed on a country, the country for which the tariff is placed does not pay the tariff. The American companies who buy the products pay the United States government a tax on bringing that product in, and that tax goes into the United States Treasury, and that tax is then charged by the private company in the United States to every single American who buys those products. And when you raise the price of a product to cover the tariff, what is that called? Inflation. Again, one of the reasons Donald Trump says he loves his people to be stupid, and that's not me saying this, that is the Führer of those who voted for him. He said he likes his people stupid. I didn't say that. Donald Trump did. And you know what? When he tells you that he's putting a tariff on a country, and he doesn't tell you that means your price is going to go up, again, he's assuming that you're stupid. But you're listening to Politics Done Right now. And what we do here is we make sure to tell the truth. We make sure that Americans understand what's really happening, what's really going on. So the reason that tariff scare didn't go through on Colombia yesterday, and this all happened on Sunday, the reason it didn't go through Sunday is Trump knew exactly what would have happened. As soon as you put a tariff on Colombia, that morning coffee is going to go up by 25%. That morning banana is going to go up by 25%. That pineapple is going to go up by 25%. And what is that called? Inflation. And did Trump tell you when you were voting for him that he was going to go ahead and lower your prices? Isn't that what he told you? And of course, but he has no policies to do that. One of the things that he had with tariffs were the following. Let me tell you the dirty little secret that he didn't like to tell you. He knew that Donald Trump, even though he goes to Davos and he tells the people at Davos, I'm going to throw tariffs on people who don't manufacture stuff in the United States. Those guys at Davos shook their head. They smiled. They smirk. But they're not dumb. They understand that putting a tariff is really just raising prices in America. It's not doing anything for them. And let me tell you why the prices are going to raise up. Okay? America doesn't make enough clothes for Americans anymore. America doesn't grow enough tropical fruits, or, well, of course, if it's tropical, it's not growing here, but doesn't grow the products that Americans love in the United States. And guess what? Over the next 4 years, they couldn't possibly do it. They can't grow the fruit that they import, and we can't manufacture the cheap clothes that you go to Walmart to buy every day to get your MAGA kids to school. We can't do it. And we can't ramp up production in the 3 or 4 years that Donald Trump will be in office so that there isn't inflation. So you will pay those high prices for the duration of the Trump administration if that was realized. But he wanted to do a double take, because in his small mind, and again, he doesn't have a lot upstairs. In his small mind, what he sees is the following. Wait a minute. If we throw tariffs onto products, on countries, we can sell it to Americans as we are charging that country a tariff because they're not doing what we want them to do. But at the same time, he's filling up the United States coffers, the United States Treasury, with a VAT alorium tax, meaning a sales tax. He's filling America's coffers up with that tax that then he's going to give back as tax cuts to the wealthy, not tax cuts to you. Because remember, when he puts a tariff onto a product, that product, that the price is going to go up. So any minor, very tiny tax cut he gives you will go right back into paying for that product. And that tax that he collects from the increase in price of that product is then going to be given to the wealthy guy who gets a lower tax, a lower corporate tax, a lower capital gain tax, and all the taxes that he's going to reduce. In other words, folks, once again, you've been had. Once again, you've been had. Again, one of the stories that I was going to talk about today, or that I am going to talk about today, is an article written by Ralph Nader. Everybody knows who Ralph Nader is, a consumer advocate. And it's an important article. The title of his article is, "To Defend Democracy from Trump, the Mainstream Press Must Cover People's Movement." That's a scary title. That's a scary title. Because it is saying that to defend democracy, we are dependent on the mainstream press to cover people's movements. And what are people's movement that we're talking about? We're talking about people's going out in the streets and protesting. Did you know there was a big protest in Washington on Trump and policies? No, you didn't. And why didn't you? Because it wasn't covered. Did you know that our big event, where all progressives get together and we bring think tanks in from all over the country and we meet in the summer, every single summer, it's just as big, if not bigger, than CPAC, that gets covered from the beginning to the end on CNN, on MSNBC, on Fox News. There's an alternative to CPAC. It's called Netroots Nation and many other organizations that have these policy type people's movement, just like CPAC or any conservative movement. They cover CPAC, but they rarely cover Netroots. I cover Netroots, and many other small independent media, progressive media covers Netroots. But most Americans don't know the value, the things that are happening in Netroots, the things that make a difference in Netroots, the policies that we talk about to make America better. Instead, we hear all the junk from CPAC. That's all we hear. The junk from CPAC. So my question again is, to defend democracy, if we really are going to be dependent on the mainstream media, we're hosed. And I don't say that lightly. If we really are going to have to depend on that, we're hosed. But look, folks, there are answers. KPFT, Pacifica Network, Daily Kos, Common Dreams, many Substack newsletters that are out there, meaning folks like Cox and others, Egberto off the record. We are having to create our own media infrastructure to get the message out. And that infrastructure has to include all of us. That infrastructure has to include all of us. This is what Brother Ralph Nader had to say. A lawless madman with cunning political skills is at large in our White House. After less than 5 days in office, he has set a record for flamboyantly issued executive orders, many violative of federal statutes and the Constitution. A partial list, and I want you to listen well. He has withdrawn the U.S. from the World Health Organization, damaging international coordination regarding pandemics. I want you to think about this. The avian flu, or I don't remember the actual name for the flu that's affecting chickens, right? Chickens and ducks and other flying animals, birds. Now, we don't know if this thing is going to cross into human beings. Meaning be transmitted between human to human contact. We don't know that. But we do know something, and that is this is a flu that doesn't only affect the United States, but it affects all over the world. And of course, find time that we picked to leave the World Health Organization. It's also called the WHO. Now, we know how responsible Donald Trump was with COVID-19. And I'm kidding. Because he got over 400,000 people that died that didn't have to. I claimed it was 1 million. It's over 1 million Americans that died from COVID. But one of my listeners at 3:00 said, Egberto, we want to remain factual. And what the organizations have calculated is that it's about 450,000 unnecessary deaths that occurred from COVID. So I had to stick with what the numbers said. We know how well Brother Trump handled COVID-19. And we placed this country in his hands again. We placed this man in charge again. When Ralph Nader talks about the mainstream press needs to be a part of the people's movement in order to protect democracy, they did a very poor job in pointing how Donald Trump was derelict of his duty to keep this country safe. No other president had to live through, a recent president had to live through a pandemic of this sort because they nipped it in the butt. There were many potential pandemics that could have afflicted the world that presidents from Obama to Bush nipped in the butt at its origins. And it's not at its origins on the way it quarantined here in the United States. But Donald Trump, somebody who is lacking of intellect to the nth degree, he allowed the richest country in the world, the most prosperous country in the world, the country that has the best science in the world, he dummified it to the extent that none of those things matter. Do you know the country of my origin, Panama, did better as far as the percentage of people killed by this disease than the United States? Countries throughout Africa, Australia, New Zealand, and many other countries without vaccines, with and without vaccines, did better just because their population were not dummified into fighting whether they should wear a mask or not, whether they should keep their distance from others or not, whether they should congregate or not. Simple things that we use our rugged individualism directed by Master Trump into getting a lot of Americans killed. And is that going to happen again with the avian flu? Now that we've dropped out of the WHO? Will that again happen? Well, a lot of us put him in there again. And we're living to see what the possibilities are going to be. The wreckage that we are going to have to clean up after 4 years of this disaster. Hopefully, in the midterms, we get corrective actions to neuter whatever possibility he has of doing any more damage than he's going to get done in the first 2 years. So what else did he quit? First few days, he quit the Paris Climate Accords, nations working together against climate change. And what else is he doing? Reducing all the subsidies to windmills, to electric cars, and all the things that makes the air better, makes the environment better. He wants to cut, and he wants to just drill, baby, drill. And as much as Brother Biden was drilling more than he has, the drill, baby, drill, and soup up the oil industry. Somebody should have reminded him, and somebody should remind Texans specifically, that the largest producer of electricity from wind power is right here in the state of Texas. In this vast state of Texas, while we have the rhetoric used to dumbify Texans, the plutocrats are still building windmills. The plutocrats are still profiting from green energy that costs them nothing. They put up a windmill, and the power supply and the energy or the material to create the energy is free. It's called wind. And they're making megawatts upon megawatts of electricity here in Texas, more so than in California, the liberal state. But we have a Neanderthal in office talking about somehow green energy is a bad thing, or somehow it kills whales and birds. And that is what we placed into office. That is what we placed into office. A person who puts us back as the rest of the world moves forward. A person that puts us back. So, folks, Ralph Nader continues and he says, selected corporate ideologues to run regulatory agencies. You know, the reason we don't want dioxin or BTE in gasoline tanks, etc., is because it gets into your water table, and if it gets into your water table, it's there just about forever. Regulations prevent that from happening. If you want to know why you don't get salmonella in all the eggs that you eat, if you want to know why the H1N1 pathogen was found, it's because of regulation. If you want to know why even folks that are selling raw milk, they're advised appropriately not to sell, it's your regulatory agency. And what Donald Trump went to Davos and tell those folks in Davos is, you guys have too much regulation in Europe. Here in America, we have too much too. We're getting rid of them. It's open for business. Come on in. Do as you please. Let's just make money on top of the backs of the American people. Let's go ahead and pollute your aquifers. You know what's happening to the aquifers in West Texas, right? Hey, guys, when you look at the map of Texas, it looks like it's all red. Actually, it's pretty damn close to a 50-50 map by vote, and it's pretty damn close to actually, there are more progressives in Texas than there are conservatives. They just don't call themselves progressives here in Texas. But you look at the map, you wouldn't know. But you know what's happening in ranch country? You know what's happening in fracking country? I brought on several folks to the program that spoke about all the fracking out there. You know, when you frack, you use a whole lot of water. You have to apply pressure to rocks and break the rocks to unleash the hydrocarbons out of there. And you run some water at high pressure to bring that hydrocarbon up to the surface. And that water is pretty damn dirty, with a whole lot of some radiation, not a lot, but some radiation, a whole lot of chemicals you don't want, right? So you got to put that water somewhere. Well, if you are in Texas, if you're in the middle of West Texas, where there's a hell of a lot of land, but no big place to dump this stuff, you have to figure out what to do with this fluid. I mean, you can't truck it somewhere or pipe it somewhere. You can't really do it. It makes the price of oil extremely high, which actually we should, right? The price of oil should reflect the damage that it does to the environment when exploited. But we don't do that. We don't look at things called externalities, right? So they found an ingenious way to get rid of that bad water, if you will. And let's go into a little bit of science here. Your strata, if you take a look at the geography of the earth, you have the earth's crust with different kinds of rock, and some sandy, some very shale-like, some hard, some sandstone, some clay, etc. Well, there are some areas that have some good, solid, non-porous, fairly non-porous rock. Deep levels under high pressure. So what these geniuses figure they'll do is they will simply dump all that water, bad water, under the ground at very high pressures. And of course, because the rock is very deep, very heavy, it'll supposedly keep the taps on that pressure. But if you know, like anybody else, you have a house with a roof, water always finds the weakest part of your roof to leak into your home. Same thing when you have water placed under high pressure under the earth, that water tries to get its way out. And guess where it's happening? In West Texas, we have a whole lot of high pressure exploding areas that are simply bubbling up from all this crap that we put into the ground because we have very low regulatory rules in the state of Texas because we want to drill, baby, drill. So all those cows out in West Texas, all those farmlands out in West Texas, many of them are now unusable because they've been flooded with this toxic combine of slight radioactivity, bad chemicals, phosphorus, all kinds of crap in this water that they have out there. And so that water is polluting fields that would normally be used for growing, polluting fields that would normally be used to grow stuff for cattle and that cattle are grazing on. A lot of these guys have lost their cattle. Ralph Nader says, to defend democracy from Trump, the mainstream press must cover people's movement. Well, it must also cover the damage that the plutocracy is doing to us. And guess what? When I brought the guy who was running for Railroad Commission, I can't remember his name right now, he told that story. The Texas Tribune told that story for a short while. But did the Houston Chronicle make that the kind of story that they send a reporter there over and over again to keep and tell us the progress of how those wells are doing? How much more damage is being done on a daily basis, how it's affecting the food supply, how it's doing all these things that damage? No. But, you know, you'll hear Marjorie Taylor on TV every day saying nonsensical things, Israel lasers, all kind of stuff. But the things that actually affect us, the mainstream media is not there. To defend democracy from Trump, the mainstream press must cover people's movement. Well, you know what? If we are waiting on the mainstream press, we are in trouble. It ain't going to happen. And it's going to keep people in their state of ignorance. It's going to keep people in their state of ignorance. You can't blame our MAGA brothers and sisters that they are getting their information from the mainstream media like Fox News and otherwise. So what can we do? That is where we have to be a part of the solution. That is where we have to be part of the solution. You know, a democracy doesn't belong to any one individual. It's something that every individual who wants it has to fight for. And that is where we are at today. We don't sit back and accept and be fearful of what Trump has to offer, which is pretty much despair. We don't have to do that. We can spend our time day in and day out informing, instructing, enlightening, educating. That is one of the goals of Politics Done Right. The idea that we are going to cover issues in depth that you won't see covered in depth at these major newspapers who are funded themselves by the plutocracy, the oligarchy, the wealthy. Why do you think Jeff Bezos and Zuckerberg and all these guys are running to kiss Trump's ring? Trump thinks they're kissing his ring because he's in command. That's not really the truth. They're in command. They just want to make sure that they remained and that they can continue to gobble up everything that you've made. Remember, I told you several days in and days out, these guys are parasites. They produce nothing. You do. They produce nothing. You do. And until we get that within ourselves and realize our worth and realize that we are the ones who make America, not the wealthy guy, not the Zuckerbergs. The Zuckerberg came up with a page on a screen. And I'm serious about this. You know, I mean, I'm a programmer. I'm a software developer as well. Okay? I mean, look, it's great. He came up with a page. But you know how many thousands of people came up with a page? He got capitalized. When I looked at it, one of the reasons I have so much disdain for the capitalists, and, you know, people wonder, hey, we have some people that come into the chat. And by the way, let me salute the people in the chat. Billy Allison Irwin, welcome aboard. Allison Dreams, welcome aboard. John R. Aguilar, welcome aboard. Gayla Kunis, welcome aboard. Rock, welcome aboard. I also have Lee Darlington, welcome aboard. Thank you guys for all being here. Sorry for the mishap, and I don't know if the telephones are working. If they're working, you can call in. We'll see if it works or not. I don't know, but you know, I can talk forever on these issues. So I just want you to know that. Let's go here. When I talk about these plutocrats being parasites, I am not mincing my words. I'm not saying that to be hyperbolic. I actually mean it. Alistair Waters, welcome aboard on the chat. I actually mean it, my brothers and sisters. These wealthy plutocrats, by definition, are parasites. They create nothing. They like you to believe that they're making that money, and if they don't make that money, innovation stops, creation stops. That's false. The people who innovate, the people who create, the engineers, the doctors, all these guys that are doing things that are meaningful, that makes a difference in your life, they do it without being wealthy. Yes, the wealthy guy pays them, but guess what? Why the hell do we need the wealthy guys to pay them? Why do we need the parasites? We can create, and Richard, I have spoken to this a lot with different economists, Richard Wolff. I've even spoken to it with Robert Reich. It said that although Robert Reich sometimes once I asked him, why do we need that format? He said, his answer was, well, that's how America operates. But here's the thing, folks. There are economic models, and I have an interview that I did with Richard Wolff that I'm going to play here sometime in the near future. I played it on the 3 o'clock show. No, I'll be playing it on the 3 o'clock show today, I believe. where he talks about different economic models that really take your worth into account. Your worth into account, not the parasite's worth, but your worth into account. And that is but to be able to get there, we have to remove the indoctrination that we get from the time we were born, to the ads that we see, to the education that we get. We have to get rid of that indoctrinative state. But there's so much pressure being placed on our mainstream media and all these other avenues where we get our information from. And that is what needs to be mitigated. And you know what? That's what KPFT, Pacifica Network, that's what other entities, Common Dreams, that is what we do. That is what we do. And folks, I want you to not lose hope in our system, if you will. All right, let's try this. Let's see if it works. Bring on Louis. Let's see if it works. Louis, are you there?
Yeah. How's it going?
Right, talk to me.
Morning.
It's going fine. Talk to me, brother.
Well, you know, I see a lot of the things that are going on today, and it's just crazy. I got some problems with Trump. You know, it's like, you know, I have some land up in Huntsville in north of Texas. You know where that's at?
Mm-hmm, of course.
And so, like, we had this solar plant that came in and built all the solar panels and took up a couple thousand acres of land, and then we just had a little minor hailstorm, and now they got to replace it all. And so there's that, and then like all those Colombians, 956 of them got deported, all criminals, and then Trump tried to put a tariff on there, and well, it worked. They ended up having to take all those criminals back again on a C-117. So, you know, I got a real problem with Trump, you know, being successful.
Really?
What do you think?
Is that what you call success?
Yeah, they took their criminals back.
So let's itemize it one at a time. Let's first talk. Okay, so you made 2 points. Let me answer your 2 points. Let's fix this up. You talked about a solar plant that was placed on land where we got a hailstorm that knocked them out and panels had to be replaced. We also had a deep. Yeah, well, hold on. You spoke my time. Yes. You also spoke. You also have to remember that we had gas-powered plants during the freeze a couple of years ago that went under because of the freeze and took a whole lot of money to rebuild. Natural disasters happen and they take things out. Solar panels are just like a gas turbine that got our gas pipeline going into the turbine that gets affected by not being weatherized. Guess what else, my brother? There are, in fact, solar panels that are resistant to hail. They probably didn't put those in, but that's not the issue. Let's talk now about the immigrants that are going back to Colombia. You were told those immigrants were all criminals, right? I ask you to do simple math. I know you know arithmetic, and arithmetic is a rather simple thing. It's just addition, multiplication, division, and subtraction. If you take a look and you say 900 people were criminals, were sent back to Colombia as criminals, who told you they were criminals? Trump? And they were criminals.
The Department of Homeland.
Hold on. Let me tell you about immigrants. Let me tell you about immigrants. I am an immigrant.
Yes.
No, I don't. Look,
are you illegal?
I came here. I am not illegal, nor am I legal. I'm an immigrant. Okay, let me just tell you something, sir. The biggest, the largest
immigrant,
sir.
Gotcha.
Mr. Lewis, let me finish.
Yes, sir.
The largest influx of immigrants illegal immigrants in this country came in 1492. Okay.
Yes.
And what they did. Let's have some context here. What they did is they created a genocide and they took land. the immigrants that are coming over here for reasons that America created in Latin America. And this is where I say Donald Trump doesn't want you to think. Because a lot of these people that are coming over from Latin, sir, I'm not done, sir.
You were part of that,
sir. I am not done. Right? I am not done. You spoke. I am speaking now.
Done. Go ahead.
Okay, so be quiet, please. Now,
okay. Tell your
if you take,
got it.
Be quiet. Now, if you look at the originals who came to this country, they murdered, they maimed, they killed, and they enslaved. These people that are coming across the border are doing none of that. They're coming to work. And they're coming to work in a country whose birth rate, sir,
that failed the vetting process.
Sir, do not speak over me. This is a conversation we want to have one at a time, and you will get your time to speak, sir. Okay? You spoke. Okay. Now I am speaking. Be quiet, please. Now, again, these people that are coming over here have no intentions of doing what the original settlers did here. So we should have some humility and some compassion, especially given that much of the reason why these people are coming over here is because of economic policies of the United States, of which I've spoken to a whole lot about before.
But these were vetted, released criminals, guaranteed.
No, they were not vetted, released criminals. Again, let me speak as a person of color in this country. Sir, let me tell you, if you think when I see a cop arrest somebody, I take it at face value, sir, you're dreaming, because that's not how it works. I know it may work that way for you, but it doesn't work that way for me. But anyway, sir, I got my phones that are filling up, and I got to go, and I only can give people 30 seconds. You can call me back tomorrow. All right, let's go to Patrick. Patrick, real quick, I can only hold to 30 seconds, brother.
Not a problem. Okay, solar panels are rated for 10-year storms. So unless somebody got some defective solar panels that got aligned to you. Next, if you don't like solar, that means you like more expensive gas. And if you don't like free nights and weekends on your electric bill, you don't like windmills. The number of electric cars on the road has been keeping gas prices down. And unfortunately, too many of us are too stupid to understand that. I'll leave it at that.
Thank you. Thank you, Patrick. I love to hear when people come over with facts. Welcome aboard, Jack. Come on in, Augie, real quick. 30 seconds, Augie.
Yeah. Well, we have a convicted felon, a criminal, who is kicking out people that he calls criminals. And it's funny that we have the criminal in charge convicting people that he calls criminals, but it's the presidents of these other countries of Mexico, Colombia, and Brazil. And there's going to be many more that are going to be acting against Trump. And Trump called his voters in 2016 suckers. And
exactly. And I'm going to have to leave it right there, Augie, but you nailed it. Yeah, they call them suckers. Right. And the caller before shows exactly why some of that happens. Brian, come on in. You got 30 seconds.
Yeah. Have you heard of Beverly Williams? She was arrested under the Biden administration for praying at a abortion clinic across the street on a public highway. She was arrested, and Trump pardoned her. And did you know that 60% of the people in Panama don't have the ability to have indoor plumbing? Oh, you didn't know that, did you? 60% of your country. From Panama, and
I'm glad. By the way, I'm glad that you said that, but you're simply wrong about that. But I don't have the time to do that. I am from Panama, and I love when somebody who doesn't know a country can tell me what they've read from, as opposed to somebody who lives there and knows the entire country. I don't have to look it up. Anyway, studio, come on in. Let's close.
Oh, we're still working. We're still working on the problems here. So take it home, Egberto.
All right, let me give some kudos, guys. I don't know if you guys understand the technical difficulties we had today, and Howard is still working his butt on it. We have been working magic to get this show. I cannot commend Howard and Jack enough for actually making this happen. Folks, the rest of the show is at politicsdoneright.com/newsletter, politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. I love you all. Thank you all for listening. We need you. We have to be the resistance. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right. And you guys know how I end this baby. I am what? Out.
Support for this show, Politics Done Right, comes from politicsdoneright.com, publishers of How to Make America Utopia, Take Away the Economy from Those Who Rigged It. As I See It, Class Warfare, The Only Resort to Right-Wing Doom. It's Worth It, How to Talk to Your Right-Wing Relatives, Friends, and Neighbors, and other books written by Egberto Willies. Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right.